Yeah! Welcome back to Full Throttle Moto with Kayla Yakoff and DJ. We happen to be back in the house with you. Kayla, the boss, is back.
We are back.
We are
It
back.
is
How you
good.
doing,
It is
boss?
good to be back.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
doing
good to have
well.
you
I'm doing
back,
well.
man.
How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing good, man. I went to crazy UFO conference this weekend, met so many awesome people, made a whole bunch of new friends. So life's good. When I yell like that, I forgot to put the mic back in my face so people can hear me. So anyway, yeah, I'm back with the host of this joint, Miss Kayla Yakov, and tonight we have a very special guest, somebody who's become and will be a central figure in your life. Is that right, Kayla?
Yep, 100%. Yep. I'm really excited. It'll be really cool.
It's gonna be. I was so excited, and for me, it was awesome because when I suggested bringing this young lady on, Kayla was like immediately jumped all over it. And some other guests I've suggested, she was kind of like lukewarm. But when I said to bring this young lady on, she was all over it. And actually, this individual represents a pioneer, somebody that came before Kayla that has blazed a trail, kind of like a Lewis and Clark of motorcycle racing.
You could say that. You could say that.
And she's laughing backstage. But party people, put your hands together for Melissa Paris.
Hi guys, what's happening? Lewis and Clark. Does that mean I get a canoe or?
let me put you in the position of honor. Yes, you should have a canoe if you prefer
You
kayak.
get good hats
something,
too. You have like
Yeah.
cool hats. Yeah.
a cool hat.
Sweet,
But I just
sign
figured
me
the
up.
kayak, you'll be able to right yourself if something happens. You'll be able to roll it. So,
Yeah, true.
So maybe just for modern day purposes, we'll get you a nice kayak. So,
I'll take it.
welcome to the show, Melissa. Wow! As soon as Kayla said that she was signing with you, with your team, which is, she said publicly, she didn't tell me, offline or anything, because I'll tell you what, Kayla is capable of having a top secret clearance because she keeps information close hold. So when she's done motorcycle racing, like the CIA, the FBI, one of these three-letter agencies, they could come calling, boss.
I could see it there. I could see it there.
And it's always like, and she's like baby face too, so like nobody would like not trust
No one
her,
would
right?
no one
Oh.
would suspect a thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just a country girl from Gettysburg. I don't know anything, man.
Yep.
Kayla, you got to come closer, though. Nobody can see your face. They see my face really well.
Is that too
and that's
close?
probably not what they
Whoa.
want. Yeah. They're like, bring Kayla closer. So let's
There we
see.
go.
What do we have in
Is
the
this
comments?
close enough?
Oh, so hello from Marty G, 1957. Yay,
Oh,
Melissa
Marty.
Paris. Hi, Melissa
What's
and
up,
Kayla.
Marty?
So welcome, Marty. It's good to have you, brother. And so I did make a spreadsheet. I'm hoping you guys saw it. Kayla might be like, I might have seen it. I don't know.
I
You
saw
did.
it. I saw it. Yep.
How did I
saw
do?
it. You did
will give
good.
me
It was a good.
a
It was
letter
a good
grade
It
on
was
that?
like a lot of homework. I felt like I've never had to do homework before a podcast before.
Well, I'll tell you, man. I have a team that does the UFO podcast. When I do this, the boss kind of says, "Hey, we're having Melissa Paris," and I got to make it happen. Hello, JH, what's up? Yeah, it is great to see these ladies because we gonna learn something about motorcycle racing tonight for the layperson like me. We finna get some education up in here. So, so with that, Melissa, Kayla, do you want the first question? Or do you want me to start it off?
I think you could start it off. You can start
Okay.
it off. We'll see how this goes.
Okay, so Melissa, if you would, I realize, a lot of people are familiar with your career, but first, like kind of what's going on now, and then kind of take us to the beginning, because I'd really like to hear about how it came about, but just what's going on right now in life in terms of your professional life.
What's going on right now? Right now, I'm up to my eyes in bike building, trying to get ready for the first race in the season. I'm running my own team, MP13 Racing. As you know, I've got Kayla riding for me in twins. I've got another young man named Aiden Sneed who will be riding our Junior Cup bike. This is my first season that we'll be running two riders, so things are definitely growing.
Your workload just went up by 50%.
Yeah, it's wild. It doubled. Like by about 3/4 of the year through last year, I was like, I wonder if Starbucks is hiring. And now here I am with 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 two riders instead of one. So
I listened to a team owner the other day, and from MotoGP, and he basically said kind of what you just said in a more. He expounded on it a lot more, but that was kind of it, man. How much work it is, but a passion.
yeah. Yeah, it's
So
funny because it's like we have a joke. Evan, he's like one of the other. He's I gosh, he's our electronics guy now, but he's been a huge help to me over the past season. We've started working together, and even when things are hard, we just kind of look at each other and we go, "Do what you love and never work a day in your life," right? And it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're rebuilding a whole motorcycle from scratch, and it's like never work a day. Yeah, definitely not working.
you're like, I'm gonna keep saying it over and over. There's no
Yeah.
place like home. There's no place
Yeah,
like home.
for sure.
That is awesome. By
Yeah,
the way, Tim
no,
is in the chat. Tim, what's up? He's saying, "What up, Kayla and Mel?" Thank you for joining us. We're
awesome.
gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna learn about her career. She is at Melissa Paris 13 on IG. Kayla is at. Is it at Kayla Yakov? I have it here
I think so.
somewhere.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. She's like, "Ah, I
Imagine
don't
being
know
such
this."
a superstar that you don't even know what your own
I know.
Instagram is.
That's
It's
we-
wild.
Why it's like it was probably made when I was like 7, so I don't really
Yeah.
remember.
that well, her Twitter was made when she was 9, but thank God after she updated
Replaced
it.
yeah.
So
Oh my gosh.
I love
I haven't
it.
posted
So
on it yet. I mean, I've retweeted a few things. I actually just hopped on it today, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like tagged in a couple things, and then I saw the Full
yes.
Throttle Moto the page there, and I reposted that one or retweeted that one. I'm kind of new to Twitter. I don't usually use that, but
I feel like
yeah,
Twitter's like you're a bit young for the Twitter
Yeah.
crowd.
Well, but
yeah, I can see
but
that.
may I say, Melissa, when I visited Kayla down at Barber, some of the
Hmm.
fans that came up were Twitter users and asked about, "Hey, that Twitter hasn't been updated. Is that still yours?" And
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
demo, I'm mid 50s. I'm 55. And a
Hmm.
lot my friends that are fans of hers are also in their 50s. So,
Yeah,
you're reaching out to all these different demos, in my opinion,
of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I get it.
right? So IG,
Yeah,
Facebook
that's
as
kind
well.
of a biggest thing, yeah, about Facebook is you kind of get a different crowd, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
Yes.
agree.
Yep. Because
Is it my
let's face,
question
I don't
time?
need
Do I have to
Instagram.
get
I'm
this?
sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
Is it my
Oh,
question time? Do I get to
Yeah,
interrogate?
absolutely.
Okay.
Yes,
oh,
please.
geez.
No. Okay.
I'm nervous.
Yeah, you should be. You should be very nervous right now. No. I honestly think that what we have going right now is going to be a really cool thing. It's going to be a very cool aspect, and like, kind of what I was wondering is how does it feel, kind of from an outside perspective, to have this kind of full circle moment. Obviously, when I was little, I was kind of under the MP13 banner. We
Hmm.
never got to do too much, but
Yeah.
it was cool, just being associated with you. So how does it kind of feel now to to have me on your team?
I mean, it's funny because back then in 2017, that was sort of the first year where I like dabbled in running a team. And I had this like picture in my mind of what I wanted to do. I had Jamie Astadio riding for me, and I wanted to run a team with, let me rephrase. I wanted to create a place that could be an opportunity for, I was said at the time, like young riders coming up. But like honestly, I wanted a chance to pay forward everything that had been like given to me as opportunities as a female in this sport. And I have like a chip on my shoulder, so not like a chip on my shoulder, but a lot of times I'll say I was given a lot more opportunities that I never would have gotten if I had been a boy. Like, and that's just the truth of it. Like, and what I wanted to see was like that those opportunities came to someone who really had the talent to like make something out of it. And I was sad, like it was a time where, Elena was kind of getting to the end of her career, and I wasn't really sure if there was gonna be like that next talent coming up. I was seeing Anna Carrasco and Maria Herrera in Europe, but it was hard to see what was happening here. I actually like went on the Loretta Lynn's result sheets in motocross and sent emails to the top 10 girls from, the women's class and said, "Hey, do you want to try road racing?" Because I was so desperate to find someone who had some skill on a motorcycle and wanted to like do this thing. So that's how I met Jamie. But to see you at the time, I was just kind of like seeing on Instagram and seeing what you're doing, and it was like, oh gosh, there's like hope here. And I reached out to your dad, and it's like, I don't really know what I can do to help. I don't have any money, but I want to make sure that like it keeps happening, and that by the time you're ready to come race, in Moto America, like you've had all the right opportunities and all the right everything to get there. And your dad's done a phenomenal job of making that all happen for you. And I'm so happy. So it's pretty wild to think like now here we are, like you said, 5 years later, and you're going to be on my team. And it's like, oh yeah, like that little kid I saw racing, supermoto and like little mini bikes, like she came good. And so, yeah, it's huge, man. It's rad.
Have you seen, like for Kayla, have you had like a 9-year-old young lady come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to be like you, or I want to race in Moto America someday"?
Yeah, it's been really cool. I think this whole season has done a lot for me in a few ways. Not just from like a racing standpoint and having to go through things and also just like doing so well. I was actually really surprised how well I did, and it was just a lot of things came with that, and it was really nice to see that you kind of had that female representation in Moto America, and that brought a lot to me, and it was really cool to see how many girls are trying to come up now, and especially when to have people say it's you inspire me to do this. It's very cool, and there are definitely a few girls now that I feel like if they do exactly what they've been doing and keep at it, they're gonna make it pretty far.
I don't know how. I really don't know how you do it. It's so difficult to manage. Like even me showing up at a UFO conference in New York City, and people kind of like being like, "I'm a fan of your show," and like I don't. I'm just like, "Hey, let's exchange numbers and make contact." Like I don't know how to have. I know how to have friends. I just don't know how to have a fan. And you have to do that. And it on a much grander scale. So I admire you being able to manage that, especially like you're getting ready to go on the track in like 30 minutes, and a little girl comes up to you, and you have to somehow bring it together, and even if you're emotionally moved, right? So
Yep.
I think it's dynamic. And we'll get in. Maybe I'll finish up with a little bit of Kayla's significance later on, but. First of all, Melissa, since I don't know you very well, I would love to know about your journey to this point. I think that would be really interesting.
Yeah, I think like where I am, it's pretty wild because I didn't grow up the way Kayla did. Nobody in my family rode motorcycles. The closest I came to it was doing a handful of BMX races, I think. But for the most part, I played Little League baseball actually on a boys team until I was 15. I was a catcher. I thought I was really good at it until I realized like all the boys hit puberty and got a lot bigger than me. But
You were
no,
really good at it,
I was. They were just a lot bigger
right?
all of a
Right.
sudden. Yeah. And so I went, it's funny because obviously you see people riding sport bikes around. And I remember I'd always be like, man, that's so cool. Like, I didn't know anyone who did it. And I'll come back to why that shows how much representation matters. But I didn't know anyone who did that. And so it seemed like something that wasn't available to me. So fast forward, I'm a freshman in college at San Diego State, and there's a really cute boy who lived in my dorm who had a sport bike, and I was like, hey. um, so, one thing led to another. He took me for a ride. We started dating. I learned how to ride. We broke up. I started racing. Um, yeah, I live in
Racing cures everything. It's
yeah,
okay.
pretty much. I lived in San Diego at the time, and here we have Palomar Mountain, which is like the kind of famous canyon roads. It's like our little I'm such a squid for saying this, but I mean, we treated it like a racetrack. That's the first place I ever drug knee was on a public street.
Yeah,
So
same here. Yeah.
yeah. So that's kind of how it started. And then I got really lucky that there's like a group of guys that were riding up there who were like, "Hey, you are about to be not alive anymore. Can we please take you to a track day?" And so that was kind of how it all started. And I was just like a broke college student, so I would actually help fix crashed motorcycles at the California Superbike School in exchange for they'd let me
Track
ride for
time.
free. Yeah, they'd let
That's
me ride for
so
free while
awesome.
the students were on lunch. So that's sort of where it all started. And then a couple of my friends started racing, and I was like, "You're not faster than me." So I started racing, and then I mean, I think after the first flag drop, like my whole trajectory in life, it just like took
Changed.
like a 90-degree turn. I was like, okay, I know I'm like about to have an accounting degree, but I definitely don't want to do that anymore.
That's what I was going to ask you. You already figured out my next question is what were you studying in school?
Yeah, I have a
Okay.
degree in accounting, which is like, anyone who's involved in racing would understand how much comedy that is. But yeah,
That's
so that's
it's
kind of how it
awesome.
all started. I just started club racing and, I think this is something that Kayla probably cannot relate to, but there was like a point as a club racer where I was like, I want to be good enough to race professionally, and it seemed so far-fetched that I couldn't even verbalize it. Like I couldn't even say it out loud because I thought people would laugh at me. And, fast forward and it's like 2011 or 12 or whatever, and they let me test the MotoGP bike. And I'm like, it was just this feeling of like
Man,
someone's gonna realize that I snuck in the back door and like I'm not supposed to be here. Like I'm supposed to just be like that squid at Palomar, like treating the public street like a racetrack, and like someone's, like that you just feel like, oh, someone's gonna figure it out and they're gonna make me go home, and for some reason they haven't.
and I'm sorry, when I clap, it's just the emotion. I don't know another way that I can show in the emotion in the mid sentence, but it's very inspiring, and I'm so glad that the empowerment that was difficult for you to grasp at the time, and you can see how much easier it is for Kayla. And before we get to Kayla's question, Tim is in the chat. He has a question, and I want to put it up on screen so that we can have a look at it. It says, "Not just little girls. I've seen a few of the BTR ladies stoked to talk to Kayla and learn racecraft, and they definitely appreciate Mel, what all Mel does for them." Yeah, and thank you, Tim, for that. Absolutely. I was using that as a frame of reference to the next generation because
Yeah.
now there is a younger generation that is already looking at Kayla as a role model. And I get that. That's awesome that
Yeah.
the Build Train Race racers are looking at her. But there is another, Melissa, there's another Kayla out there right
For
now
sure.
that,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a bunch of them. And,
yeah.
there's like a movement in auto racing right now. A bunch of girls started this thing called Shift Up Now, and they all wear these shirts that say, "If I can see her, I can be her." And like, I really do believe in that. So I think it's really important, whatever. Kayla, at the end of the day, I know what you're doing. You're just chasing your dream, doing your thing, and it's awesome. It's a cool byproduct that you're inspiring a bunch of girls behind you, right? So I think that's so cool. And the important thing, like from my point of view, is it's not just the little girls she's inspiring, but like I think the only reason we don't have more girls racing is because the really talented racers do start when they're 3, 4, 5 years old. And that's not a conscious decision that they get to make. So we're also seeing parents say, "Oh, okay, like when Santa brings a PW50 for little Timmy, he should probably bring one for little Sally too." And you get that many more young girls riding from a young age, then we're gonna have that much more like talent to pick from, in 5, 10 years from now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't help but think that the door is not closed because it isn't
Yeah.
anymore. To you, it looked closed. You kind of like put your fingers in there and you peered through the door, and the door kept opening. But for
Yeah.
Kayla, she's seeing that. I've been at track days when I actually met Kayla and her dad at a track day, and the response that people have to her, I don't quite. It's unique. People are able to identify with her and can, and I hate to speak about you in third person when you're sitting right in front of me here, Kayla, but
I was
people
like hide away at
identify, yeah, forgive me, that they identify with you and connect with you in a way that it's very organic and it's very real. It's very from the heart. My friend thinks like he thinks of Kayla. He's like, man, I can imagine my daughter, and it's not that he
Hmm.
thinks Kayla is his daughter, but he relates it to that when he sees her do these feats of things. But I have to
Yeah.
turn the floor over to her so she can ask you a question. I can't hog you up, Melissa.
You're all good. You know, it was really cool this year, kind of being able to see, um, you know, MP13 in the twins class, and especially doing well with Corey. It was really cool to see, and it was also cool to see that like at Barber we almost had identical weekends, and up until the race, sadly, but but
Oh.
it was kind of cool to see that because at that point we already kind of knew what we wanted to do for the following year, and
Yeah.
it was really cool talking about it. But was there kind of a point in the last 2 years where you wanted to reach out to my dad about doing a Twins Cup program? Or was there like a decisive moment where you were like, I feel like this is something I would want to jump on?
I mean, to be honest with you, like, oh gosh, I have to think how I say this to say it diplomatically. um, for sure. Like, honestly, as soon as I saw you, like, midway through your first season in Junior Cup, it's like, God, I wish I could put a program together for that girl. You know what I mean? But the thing is like I look at the caliber of writer you are, and I can't like make an offer to you until I knew I had something to offer. And honestly, like throughout this season, this year, it was like, God darn, like she'd kill it in this class. Like this is like a dream situation for me. Um, this is gonna sound terrible, but whatever, we're just gonna say it. Hearing you speak, I was like, gosh, she would be a delight to work with because young boys can be a little challenging to communicate with at times. um, just like a lot of times, like girls, our communication skills, I think, develop a little bit sooner. So yeah, guys they have reach and they're better at baseball and basketball. But one thing girls can tend to be better at is communicating. So I was like, gosh, like this would be like really interesting. It'd be like a really cool thing. But even still, it was like having the financial backing to make it happen was going to be the thing that mattered. And I talk about, jokingly saying, I wonder if Starbucks was hiring. But this year, this season racing, I mean, it was almost the end of my racing career. The twins class, it's challenging. It's like a mini superbike class. Like these bikes are wild. How much goes into them, and you have a little bad luck along the way, and it can add up really quick. And like 3/4 of the way through the season, I wasn't really sure what the future of my team looked like. It's a passion, but I still have to earn a living. I've got, two small kids I have to help support. So, yeah, it was looking bleak, even though I was like, gosh, this would be amazing. And then suddenly we had a sponsor like approach us, and then a second sponsor. And all of a sudden it was like, whoa, we actually like have the means to make this happen, like we can actually. And it was funny because they talked to me before we raced in New Jersey, and I was like, oh man, like this might all happen, like this could all come together. But I was trying not to get my hopes up. I knew that you probably had a million offers, so I just wanted to like wait. And like one thing, I don't know if your dad told me this, but like the first time I spoke to him, I said like, look, obviously I want Kayla on my team if it's the best place for her. Like what I didn't want was for you to end up on a team that, wasn't the best fit or the right place for you. And like just as a fan and as someone who wants to see you do well, like I just wanted to see you land in a place where you're going to have the best opportunity possible. And I hoped that that would be my team. And so I'm really happy that that's how it worked out.
You know what's beautiful here is there's so much. You're not. being the cool pioneer rider. The emotion is flowing out of you, and it's very evident. And it's a beautiful thing,
Yeah,
Melissa.
I
I just
can't
want to
like
say that.
fake it. Like
Right.
unfortunately, like I like my emotions are like on display. Like the fact is like I freaking love racing motorcycles. Like it is it makes me happy, you know what I mean? And I love it and I'm a fan of the sport and I still love doing it myself and I like watching other people who are good at it do it. I like seeing my motorcycle on top of the podium. Like I like it's real. Like it's genuine emotions, you know? And I can't put on like that professional face and like hide it. It's impossible.
And why should you? What requirement is there to do that?
Yeah.
You can be yourself and let the chips fall where they may, and I'm sure Kayla feels it, even though if she may not say it, but she feels it. I certainly see it. I'm living the dream right now. I'm here talking motorcycles, so
Yeah.
a track day meathead, intermediate, slow guy talking with Kayla and Melissa Paris. So I'm living the dream right now, and some of my mates are living vicariously through me.
Love it.
Marty G, who I said yes, Melissa in account. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that, but he said Melissa in accounting is hilarious.
It is
We have
hilarious.
we have JH here that says racing budgets are super important. Oh my, I can only imagine the money that you have to go through to keep these bikes running. Not to mention having to employ your mechanical skills on the daily.
Yeah.
JH also said Josh and Melissa on a MotoGP bike, faster trap speed. I don't know what that means. What is trap
Wait,
speed?
wait a second. Hold on. I just want like okay, I can't see the little icon. So
Oh, you can't.
JH because
Oh,
that's my husband's initials. So I don't feel like my husband would bring this up. So
oh, is
I'm
this
trying to
Josh
figure
Hayes?
out I'm
Okay.
trying to there's no way it is because there's no way Josh and I feel like I can hear him downstairs taking care of our children, but I could be wrong. Trap speed is like your top speed on a motorcycle. So Josh raced the Tech 3 MotoGP bike for an entire weekend, and then I got to test it for like 15 or 20 laps. And my very first line lap down the front straight was faster than his top speed from the whole weekend.
Woo!
Yeah, but it was 100% because I was afraid of getting made fun of for not holding the throttle open. Like, I am super motivated by trying to avoid shame. So you can like it's why you could probably peer pressure me into just about anything, like for threat of like making fun of me. But all I could think was like, there's data on this thing, and if I come in and they see that I held it at like
You're just like,
60% throttle, like I'll never live it down. So like I had that thing on the stick on lap one on a damp track, like down the straightaway. And it's funny because Cal Crutchlow was standing next to Josh on the pit wall, and he said like I was tucked in so well behind it that at one point Cal was like, "Dude, did she fall off the
Is she
thing?"
there? Oh my
So
god.
yeah.
Well, I plan on employing, if I end up at Barber seeing you guys at Barber next year, I will employ that peer pressure for just one more beer or glass of wine with you and Josh. So anyway, what's the other one? So now this is JH also. MP13 plus Kale is going to be an epic combo. I think there's no question about that, man. I
it
can
will
see
be.
it.
For
I see
sure.
it right there. Kayla, this is when you do the hair flip,
I
okay?
do this.
Yeah,
I do
there
the thing. I
Yeah.
can't. I'm not doing it right now. The hair is too damp. It's not gonna. You can just.
Okay.
Oh, there we
Yeah.
go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We can
Tim
get that
says
later. It's
facts.
okay.
Okay.
Facts. All right.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, if this
Ugh.
is this your husband? Is this Josh?
There's no way. There's no way that Josh would have brought that up. Like, cause he's like so competitive.
Oh, okay.
He
Yeah,
is.
yes, he
Yeah.
would
He
be.
Okay.
he
Yeah.
he
All
would
right.
just be like. He would be
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, we're not gonna bring this
Yeah.
thing up.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah. He brought up just now Evan Steele from ESP Performance. He's huge. Like he's huge on our team. I hired him on to like help me this year with Corey, and the dude is just like a rock star. And he had offers to go to multiple superbike teams this year, and he stuck it out to have the opportunity to work with Kayla and me. So that's huge. Like he's so talented, and we're really grateful to have him.
That is really cool, man, because then you know that his passion is in there. And I think
Yeah.
people have said it. A lot of the guys in the pit or in the paddock rather are not in this for the money. Clearly,
Yeah,
because
for sure
they're
no.
at 3 o'clock in the morning. I heard. I'm telling you, I heard very similar to what you said today. I heard a MotoGP person. I'll try to find that podcast because we're going to reference him later when we get to what type of engine, what engine Fabio Quartararo was running this year, and I had absolutely no idea that he was running a 2020 engine. Did either of you know that?
I feel like I remember it being talked about. Like there was the reliability issues with the
Yeah, they
newer
blew the
spec.
yeah,
They
they
didn't
blew
like,
the
yeah, they didn't like the newer engines, and he didn't like
Yeah.
the way that it was working either. So they just went back to what he
Yeah.
liked.
The
I,
problem is that you're limited to the number of engines for the season, and once you choose them, you choose them, and so sometimes you got to be safe, especially like, and this is something like I learned along the way, like watching like my husband's career, is the factory teams a lot of times are have to be even more careful than like the satellite teams because it's like such a dishonor to have a failure, you know? So I remember like watching Josh like when he was at Arian Honda and some of the things with his bike versus the factory Honda bikes and when he was at factory Yamaha versus some of the other Yamahas on the grid. So, for sure like reliability it doesn't do any good how fast it is if it's not rideable or you can't finish races,
yeah, I'm gonna try to get the name. I feel like this guy was a Dutch engineer, crew chief, and then became an engineer. And I'll get his name while Kayla's asking her question. But he said that they blew the 22 and 22 engine, and they basically are like, okay, we got some of those 2020s left over.
Yeah.
Let's get with
Yeah.
it. And it certainly explains what happened to Fabio and why his speed. But we're going to get into that later when we get to hear you guys rank these riders. Uh, so yeah, Kayla, please go ahead, ma'am, with your question.
Okay, this is a good one. I need to make
Uh-oh.
sure this is okay. We talked about our deal going into the next season. I just want to make sure everything's clear to make sure that
Oh.
we have enough behind us to get us 14 pairs of shoes. Is this
Yeah,
okay?
I was like, okay, this deal. I remember. So Kayla gets
Uh-huh.
a pair of Vans every time she wins a
Not just
race.
Vans. It's not just Vans. We talked
Oh,
about
okay, yeah, it
shoes.
could be.
It was
Oh,
Yeah,
shoes.
okay, a pair of shoes, a new pair of shoes
Anything.
for every race win.
wow. And Kayla, if you wear the checkerboard ones, it'll certainly bring you closer to my heart because
Yeah.
Fast Times at Ridgemont
I already have
High.
them.
I wore
Oh
them in high
yeah,
school. You already have them?
I already
yeah.
have them.
We
Look, I
always
saw
had.
this kid.
We
I saw this
always.
kid let loose in the Vans outlet store, and she was like, it was like watching my 5-year-old on the candy aisle. Like, it was
Uh,
wild.
you should have saw me in Zoomies too. That one was good. I'm just
Yeah,
like dragging Matilda around with me, trying to find good things. But
yeah.
yeah, it's. I think honestly, this whole dynamic going into next year is going to be really good. It's going to be really fun. Obviously last year I had a lot of fun with Altus. They did a great job, and either way, all good things to them. But I think this year it's going to be really cool to not only just step up into a new class and have different experiences, but to have two really, not just two, but two main people really experienced to be with me at all times, and that are also racers and understand what I will need, and it's honestly really cool. And I've spent some time with Melissa. I went out there, when was it? Was it last month? And
Yeah.
spend like a week and a half there. Did some training, went out and did the Dunlop Q5 test with
Mhm.
Josh, which was his first time back on a bike after hobbling around. But
Oh, good, good.
yeah, it
People
was.
were asking me about Josh. That's why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so but I'm super excited. I think just the whole dynamic is going to be really cool, and I love spending time with them. I mean, I was there for 10 days, and I already feel at home, so it's really cool.
It was
Wow.
really cool having that opportunity to get to know each other. And honestly, like Kayla really impressed me. She'd never like really ridden a road bike before, and we took her out and made her pedal until she puked. And like, I mean, honestly, that first week she put in like 150 miles in a week, which is like pretty impressive. And like I gotta tell you, like we call our house the Hayes home for wayward racers. We have a lot of racers come through here, and like you see all types. And yeah, usually when you get like a group of them together, you don't hear too much belly aching, but when you're one on one, you definitely have a lot more of like, oh God, like I'm not feeling it today, like my legs hurt, like I don't want to be doing this. And like Kayla didn't do that. Like I was joking earlier before we started, I'm like, she's like Chopper, I don't think she feels pain. Like it's awesome. And it's like, like as a woman, I always want to be like, oh, girls are tougher than boys, but like, dude, I think I think it's true. Like I think we really are.
Childbirth. I mean,
Right? Yeah,
The
but
yeah. I
she
only
mean,
day
really,
the only day I complained was the windy one when I
the
was
windy
after
one.
doing the 150 like 100 something miles, and I was like, dude,
Yeah.
this is not
Yeah.
helping me right now.
Yeah, but it was like it's cool. Like it's cool to see someone who's willing to like put in the work and like do what needs to be done. So for sure, like I was impressed, and it made me like even you're always like more motivated like to handle those like long nights working when you know that the person who's going to be racing your bike is doing their part too, you know?
it, I meant to ask: is fitness a big part of MP racing, and Josh Hayes racing? I mean, is fitness a big aspect of that?
Well, Josh offers like coaching services. So he works with riders at the track, and then he has a couple that he works with off track as well. And, we're big believers that when you're a professional racer, your job isn't just to show up to 10 race weekends a year, it's to be a racer every single day. And that means every day you wake up and you go to work, whatever that work might be. And for us, a lot of it was cycling and motocross, so that um, you're physically fit, you're strong enough to do the job. When you're like gassed at the end of the race, you're still, able to make good decisions because there's still enough oxygen getting to your brain. So, yeah, like I think that like for sure that's huge. And Josh will say it. Like he had to race against a lot of people that sometimes he said maybe were more talented than him. So in his point of view, he had to work harder. And 1,000% that was the case for me. I was racing against people that had been racing all their lives, had way more natural talent than me, and the only thing I had control over was how hard I worked. So
Jeez.
in my mind, it was like I'm gonna work harder than everybody else and try and give myself the best possibility I can to be successful.
When you see like a Mark Marquez, I mean, how can you not when you see he's won 8 championships, and you see, I mean, you guys are on Instagram, you're seeing what he's doing there. I'm seeing it online. What a monster he is, whether it's at the track or the gym, and his body
Hmm.
fat percentage. You know that he's just he's dieting all the time. And I believe Jake Gagne looks the same to me. He looks extremely fit.
Yeah, it's funny because like, we've had a couple like racers come through here, and obviously like looks is not always like the best indicator of how fit someone is or isn't, but for sure there's those people that are like putting in the work, and there's always those people that aren't, you
And
know?
and frankly, Jake's riding, his concentration level up to the end of the race would indicate is indicative of the work that he puts in, because you just alluded to that when the blood, the oxygen stops going to your brain, you can make a bad decision. And Jake is, I mean, he looks. When I say he looks fit, I don't mean looking at his face.
Yeah.
That is an indicator, but the way that he rides, he looks like he's
Yeah.
able to concentrate and just keep banging out consistent
Hmm.
lap. And Greg White alludes to this, is that he's turning laps, in the 18th and 19th lap that look like the fourth and fifth lap.
Yeah, he's super steady, and I mean honestly, like even look at like Kayla's, race at Barber. Like they were racing each other hard every single lap of that race.
Yeah,
Like now imagine she's doing that on a bike that's, makes 3 times as much horsepower or more, 4 times as much. I don't even know how much a junior cup bike makes, but like you know what I'm saying?
Uh,
Like imagine
Not
doing that
much.
with like all that weight and like all that extra power, and especially like you look at the GP guys, especially like they are battling for position the whole dang race. So like being able to like make good decisions like late in the race is huge.
Yeah, the engineer in question is Peter Baum.
Mm.
I can't remember. You've probably heard of him, but they said he was a crew chief. Then he moved up to engineer, and he was talking about all different aspects about what Fabio compared to the other riders that were riding the Yamaha, and that the help and so on and so forth, and phenomenal amount of information for somebody like myself. So Marty wants to know, what track was that you rode the GP bike, Marty
That
G?
was at Valencia.
Wow,
Yeah, at Valencia.
insane, man. And who do we have here? We have, let's see, AP3 XED. Am I missing something there? Maybe you got Apexed. Okay.
Apex.
Okay, love pedaling with the Hayes crew. It's my
Yeah.
favorite type of suffering. Who is this brother? Who's Apexed?
Ty. I think this might be our friend Ty. I'm not sure.
He's obviously ridden bicycles with you.
Yeah. I think it's Ty, but I could be
Okay.
wrong. Yeah. Hey, we used to have like a tradition every Tuesday. We called it Torture Tuesday, and we just go out and pedal 100 miles.
Oh, man, you guys
Yeah.
are beasts,
So you ready
man.
for that? You're gonna be ready for that, right, Kayla, when you come back?
Yep. Yep.
Of course she's not going to say no.
I see. I'm excited for it. At the
Yeah.
same time,
Look.
I feel like we might just no Chipotle before. That's the only thing.
Yeah, no
That's the only thing that
Chipotle.
scares
Okay,
me.
fire. Okay, we won't do any Mexican food right before.
Okay.
Yep, green juice and some sort of carbohydrate that's easily digestible, something
Yeah.
gluten-free. That's awesome. Kayla, you have the next question, unless you guys are ready to start going into your rider ratings. Let me see what we got here.
Oh, let me
I
think.
opened Excel. I don't need Excel.
I'm nervous for these rider ratings.
Well, you don't. I mean, you don't have to be. I mean,
It feels like a test.
not at all. Not at all. We just want to have a little bit of fun.
All right.
We just want to have a little bit of fun.
Trying to
So
think.
yeah. Let me see. Let me see. Do you want to?
We can probably go into the rider ratings because I don't think
Okay.
I have any more questions.
Okay, then
All right.
let's go to MotoGP, and
All right.
let's get top 10. Do you want to go first, Melissa?
No, I think Kayla should go first.
Dude, you're putting me on the spot for a
Pulling
Because
rank
I
already.
literally, you guys, I have to be honest with you. I have 6. Because like after 6, I was
okay.
like, I don't even like any of these other guys.
We'll get your top. Let Kayla go first. Kayla, number
All right.
10.
Number 10. We start with 10.
Yeah, you go to and end at 1, a crescendo, my friend.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Is it like 10? The person no, I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing the person I don't like because you know what? All of them are good.
It's not don't like. It's just their performance warranted. This is not like don't like. It's their performance warranted a number 10 position relative to number 1.
I'm totally gonna like cheat off her now and like fill out the rest of my list while she's talking.
All I say is I worked all day. I have an excuse. You guys. No,
I worked all day.
You probably did.
Okay.
And Kayla had school, right?
I was installing a new head gasket on an R6 twice because I did it wrong the first time.
I have so much admiration for you because, as Kayla knows, my mechanical skills have atrophied to the point of embarrassment. You don't have to start at number 10. You can also start at number 6. How's that, Kayla? Does that help?
Maybe that's a little bit helpful.
Luca Marini's there waiting for you at number 10. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. Or Alicia or whomever. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think here. I just know that I'll probably start at the top because I feel like if I name from back to my first, I feel like it's just gonna get too confusing. I'm gonna miss people.
Okay, then let's start at the top, Kayla. Who is number 1, boss?
You know, I think for me, I've always been a hard-headed Marquez fan, and I think the way that he's ridden, especially being on that, don't do that. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. The way he's ridden on the Honda,
He's not even on my list.
is a big thing. Yeah, I know. I know it. I know.
I'm a hater.
But I just want to say this. I understand where she's going because I put the equipment. I put a very high value on the equipment if they've not been provided a bike that's capable. So I'm sorry, Kayla. Please go.
All right.
I think that Marquez is in my top 3. I don't know if I would put him first, but he's definitely in my top 3 no matter what. Obviously, Quartararo has had some bad luck this year, but I think he's definitely one of my in the top. I can't put them in order. It's too hard for me. I'm indecisive when it comes
You
to
didn't do your
things like
homework.
this
You
off the
didn't like
bike.
write this down ahead of time. I was
No, I
like all
didn't.
Oh, okay.
No, I didn't.
All right, I
because
feel better
just-
about it now.
Yeah.
You guys,
see,
you guys are in
I'm
a
so
race to the bottom
indecisive about
on
it.
effort for this podcast. Come on.
I'm so indecisive about it. I don't know what else to do. I think Alex Rins is going to be in my top 3. Not only is he like one of the most talented riders on the grid, he's like an amazing dude. I got to talk to him at Coda. Great guy. And it was really cool to see him do really well in the Suzuki in the final 3 races there. And it was really cool. Along with that, I'd have to put Bashanini in that top 6 area. I think that he's definitely one of the up and coming riders, and he's been able to prove himself on an older motorcycle, which is really cool. Against the fast Ducatis here, he's going to be definitely one of the ones to beat next year. I think that Ben Yair is a really talented rider. He's made some mistakes. That's the only thing. I don't think I'd put him in my top 3 because of that. He was good in the end, I will say, but the first half of the season or before summer break, he had some instances where it's just you have to be consistent, and it was kind of like, yeah.
He may be seeking you out as a coach. I've been saying that for months now. So I may end up calling you Kayla.
See, I didn't come prepared for this one, but I think, man, like GP riders, I'm trying to think. Those are definitely like my top 5.
Can I say something? Because
I'm
I
so
agree.
proud that I like did my homework better than at least one person in this room.
Yeah, I knew she was gonna say something about that.
Somebody's got to be. Kayla might be my boss, but Melissa's your boss.
Funny.
So,
Yeah.
Brad Binder. When you look at the ups and
Oh,
downs.
Binder. That's a Binder. That's a good one. He's definitely one of my top ones as well. Sorry.
Aleix, I mean, when you look at the first half of the season, and I'm just going to ask you guys later, that stat I got that where in the last, I want to say it was the last 4 races, they scored a total of 6 points combined. Let me see if I've got that right.
Yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, not good.
And he lost
man.
that third place in the championship right at the end, which was a bit devastating for him.
Yeah,
definitely, because he rode so well at the beginning of the year. Melissa, do you think something happened to Aprilia there in terms of the equipment? Was it the rider? I mean, I think I'm counting on Mav to flame out all the time. But
he's also not on my top 10 list.
No, I'm certainly not. But what do you think happened there with regard to Aprilia?
I mean, it's so hard to know because like there's just so many moving pieces. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
Alicia's injury.
just also like all the drama and shit that you don't ever even hear about. Like, it's so hard to know, like all the stuff. So it's hard for me to even like speculate, to be honest with you. Like, I don't know if there's also like a factor of like being like, okay, like we're 3rd in the championship, like we're gonna kind of like play it safe. And I don't know if Kayla would agree with this, but like, God, I feel like anytime you try to like play it safe is when disaster strikes, right? Like that's like you. So I don't know if that could have like been a part of it, but Aleix was pretty high up my list. So I don't know if you guys are ready to hear my ranking or not.
I was
because I did my homework.
All right. So,
okay. Okay. All right. I'll just keep going here because I'm sick of hearing that. I'd put Marco Bezzecchi in my list. I think he's one of the guys that are up and coming here. I think the way he was able to progress this season has been really impressive. And he'd definitely be pretty high on my list. I think on top of that, I think, both of the Suzuki guys did so well. I would put Mir in a top 10 there. I think that Zarco, I really like Zarco and Martin. I think that they both are very strong riders. Just the thing for them is consistency, and I don't, and that's the only thing that doesn't appeal to me there. I think Oliveira is a very impressive rider as well. I'm giving takes on everyone now. So how about that?
Yes, that's perfect. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it.
The For You Yamaha team did not do very well this year. I don't really have much to say about them.
Yeah, it's not much to write home about there.
Yeah, I
Nobody
mean, like
could ride the bike.
Crutchlow, I was surprised about Crutchlow. I think he did well considering everything.
Hey, there's a guy that can ride a bicycle.
Yeah.
You're not kidding. He says, if I'm doing 100 miles, I'm not coming home until I've hit the 100 miles, he said. So,
but yeah, that's about it for that. And
Great,
then, you know, honestly, when you have it, I like with Bastianini, I would say when you have a team that isn't as developed, I'm going back to him because it kind of goes into Di Antonio. I think is another rider that I think should get another opportunity because I've always liked him as a rider. I've always liked his style, and I like to see him, keep going on that team and hopefully progress through that. When you have people like Alex Marquez and Taka Nakagami, I think that they're two guys that also need to be more consistent. I think Alex Marquez had something going better at the end of the season, and he kept his momentum rolling. Taka Nakagami, he was trying. He battled through a lot of things.
Everybody's trying.
Didn't really go too far. But when we talk about KTM, it's that one's a complicated situation there. After kind of the things that happened in Moto2, I wasn't really super stoked about Rolf Fernandez. I think that it wasn't the way I want to see. I don't know. Just
wasn't a good
as
fit.
A rider, I don't like seeing other riders bash on each other, and I think that was kind of a thing that really turned me off about him going into MotoGP. And but I think all things considering, he tried to make that bike work, and Remy Gardner, same thing, tried to make the bike work, just wasn't really working for them. That's it.
From what I heard last year is that there are certain circumstances where there would be an issue with the KTM where they would throw parts where it was not a scenario where you would throw parts, that you would work with what you had and that you would try to get the rider to adjust to the bike or adjust the bike to the rider, but they tried to out-engineer issues that were not engineering issues from what I had heard from listening to some of these more learned people in the paddock. Kayla, is there something in Aprilia that you saw that led to their demise in the second half of the season, or perhaps the third of the season?
I can never really say. There's a lot of things I can go into it. Not only like it, you have to go based off of many things. I think the Aprilia all around, up until those rounds those were very well put together bikes. They could run pretty close to the front at almost any track, which was really cool. And I think that's a good all around bike, and I'm glad to see them have a satellite team next year, which will be nice. But there are definitely things I can go into it. I'm not really sure. I'm not really the journalist in MotoGP, so I'm not sure about packages, if they tried anything new going to the last few rounds, or if it was just, like Melissa said, team orders kind of thing, or like not really team orders, but more of like, let's play it safe, not try to take too many risks. I'm not 100% sure about everything, but I think leading up to those rounds, it was a really well-rounded bike.
I would be very gratified if I were them going into testing at if it's going to be at Sepang or wherever this next year. Melissa, you have a top 10. So the boss's boss has a top. Has a
it was a top 6.
Filled out. We'll take
I'm gonna add a couple to it because of Kayla. So Kayla gave me help. So for sure, like kind of 7 and 8, Bastianini and Bezzecchi, like those are two riders I'm kind of like excited to see what happens next. My number 6 rider was Rins. I've just always been a fan. I think even the way he sits on a motorcycle is a little bit different than like a lot of other riders, and I think I don't know. He's just, I don't know. There's something about him. I'm a fan. I just think he needs to be more steady. Like, like he had that run of DNFs in there. Um, but yeah, I think he's super talented. I'm a big fan. Binder, I think, did some really good work this year as well. Um, Number 4, I have Miller. And okay, so one thing you
Even
should know
Miller,
about
that's a good
me
one.
is that I tend to choose my riders a lot of times based on not just their riding because that's just who I am. But
So like the sunglasses,
no, but dude, Jack loves the
okay,
sport. Like
yeah,
he
he's
loves
cool.
racing. Like he went home and he raced Phillip Island like an Australian superbike. Like there's a dude that this is not a job to him and he's not too cool for school. I've met him before. He's as nice as they come. And he loves the sport. So how can you not to me he's like a people's champion. Like, you know what I mean? Like how
Yeah,
can you
absolutely.
yeah, like he's just a likable guy. Number 3, Alicia Spargo. Um, this is kind of weird. Like, this is a strange thing to say, but okay, so in MotoAmerica, we have a 10 race series. If you have multiple DNFs, it becomes nearly impossible to win a championship, right? Like, you have to finish races.
Hmm.
So it's so different in the World Championship. Aleix scored points in I think all but maybe 2 races, which
Hmm.
is wild. Like
It was all but one,
nobody
I believe.
yeah, he
I
DNF'd
actually,
one,
it
but
was
he was
all
out of the
but.
points in another.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but dude, just feel like there's something to that. Like the guy, he finishes races, and that kept him in the hunt. And I think he's done a lot of work on that bike,
Yeah,
and I just I was
had his
happy.
had his
I was
first
happy.
win, Melissa,
Yeah,
ever
and I was
in
happy
200
to see
starts.
that come good, and I would love to see him get multiple wins. Like I would love to see that progress continue. Um, I appreciate how hard he works away from the racetrack and his intensity. It can almost be off-putting at times, but it's the same thing that made me a Max Biaggi fan. He was a villain to so many people, but the dude just cared. He wanted it so effing bad. And I see that in Alish, and
Yeah,
he literally can't hide it. You have someone like Mark Marquez, and he can put on that smile and you can't see any of the suffering underneath, and it's okay, fine, whatever, but just on a human level, I relate more to a writer like Alicia Spargo, where you can see the agony and the ecstasy, all of it, you can see exactly what's happening. So big fan there. My number 2 writer was Bagnaia. He had to be up there. He won the championship, so you have to give it to him. um and whatever, I'm a huge Yamaha fan. I put
yeah.
Quartararo number 1.
Woo!
This is bias. That was bias.
I'm
It's a
super
good bias. It's a
biased,
good bias.
but it's a
But
couple of things. I don't think he was on the best equipment, and he just went out there and he did the work anyway, and he didn't give up, and he kept trying all the way to the bitter end, and I love that. Also, he's French. They have great pastries in France, so
and we love
I
French
love
people,
it.
right? We love Mathilde. We
You
love
are
French
my
people.
kind of guest, Melissa, because you're
yeah,
able to weave food and ancillary things into the
yeah,
discussion. And if you haven't seen my UFO show, you're gonna see all that kind of stuff. It's
yeah,
comedy, seriousness, all the way
yeah,
through until the person's had so much fun, and then they're willing
yeah,
to come back on. So yeah, Marty G says I agree about Miller. Joe H says
yeah.
don't tell Jen D you had to install it twice. That bike is
Yeah,
her
I know.
baby.
Hopefully she's not paying attention. It's fine. It
Okay,
all worked out in the
she's not
end.
watching. But
I agree with you with Quadraro though. With
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that he had to go through a lot this season, and then had some super gnarly instances,
Dude.
and it was just insane. And for him to come back a week or two later and do the same thing, or go out and try to win races because he's trying to win this championship. I mean,
Yeah.
it was crazy, and it shows the dedication of a rider, and I think it's really admirable. And I think the guy's really cool too. I talked to him a little bit
Yeah.
as well at Coda, and just definitely. I mean, not
Yeah.
only Yamaha, but just a really cool dude. And I think that his
Yeah.
riding style, I really like his riding style. I think that's probably he's one of the guys I can relate to riding style wise more than
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
other guys.
And also, like when I did the one season racing in Spain, he was in CEV Moto3, teammates with Maria Herrera. And I'll never forget watching those two like battle each other so hard at the first race of the year in Jerez, and her beating him in one race and he beat her in the other, and just like, yeah, it's like I feel like I've followed the kid since he was like literally a child. So it's cool to see him, doing well. And I hope I hope they figure it out and he can be back on top again.
He seems like such a great person. You saw how the French in that soccer stadium received him. He rode his GP bike in there. He got de-leathered, went out there, played some soccer. But
Yeah.
he scored 248 points on the year. The other Yamaha riders combined scored 57
Dude,
for the entire season for 30
The
races. So
Morbidelli thing is maybe the biggest disappointment of the entire season for me. Like seeing what he did on the satellite team, I thought he was gonna crush it on the factory bike. So I don't know what happened there, but it like breaks my heart. That guy's got some like luscious hair, and I was just
yes,
really excited to like
you are my.
see.
I'm a
We have
huge
to have you on
Morbidelli
more
fan.
often, Melissa.
Yeah.
You need to become a regular part of this podcast because
Yeah.
you're speaking my language right now.
Yeah,
I'm a
so
huge Morbidelli fan. I mean, not
yeah.
only for the hair. The hair was cool. I mean, I like that hair, but I think
Yeah.
it was just like after 2020 and getting so close to a championship, I
Yeah.
wanted him to win it, and
Hmm.
he just seemed like one of the guys that not only cared about the sport like on a I want to win level, but like he was so passionate about it, and I could just kind of see it. And
Yeah.
I wanted him to really go out, and especially in 2021, I wanted him to win the championship, and then to have him struggle really hard on a factory bike
Yeah.
was just kind of crazy to me, and I'm happy that he's getting another chance at it. I mean,
Yeah.
I think he really deserves the shot, and I want to see him continue to be in the MotoGP paddock because he's one of the guys that no matter what, there are a few guys in there that I want to win a MotoGP championship at some point, you know,
Yeah.
and he's one of those guys.
Agree. Agree 100%. Like I hope it comes good for him. Big fan.
And, my wife's Brazilian and I'm Italian American, so obviously both sides of his helmet resonate in my family and in my house. However, I would have to agree with Lynn Jarvis, the team boss for Factory Yamaha, who said that they made a mistake by passing on Toprak Razgatlioglu. And I'm sorry, I would have to.
Mm,
Much as I
I
love
don't know.
Morbidelli, I have to. I
The
You
have to
biggest
never
agree with
thing,
know
him.
the
though. Like you
biggest
don't
thing is
know. You
like
don't know what
World
Toprak would have done
Superbike.
on that bike.
I don't.
Like
I
It's
don't. I'm.
I've
It's a
talked to
feeling.
Ben Spies about it, and he's told me so many times that when you go from a World Superbike, because obviously he's a World Superbike champion, he went from World Superbike to MotoGP. That transition is so big. It's a totally
yeah.
different bike, and to
I
get
know.
used
Yeah.
to that is and to be at the level obviously of you know not
Yeah.
only because you're going to be on a Yamaha that's not as powerful as a Ducati and some of these places, but when you have guys that have been on these bikes forever, and
Mhm.
you take someone who's been on a super bike, it's going to be a
Yeah.
huge difference. And I think that um, if there is room for Toprak, I'd love to see what he can do. If he had more tests on the bike, I'd love to see that because
Yeah.
I'm a huge Toprak fan,
Yeah.
just
But like you
all
can't
around
like
great. But
prototype to production bike. It's like it's so different. Like when I rode the M1, it was like I remember telling Josh, I had actually been able to test Josh's super bike a couple weeks before. And at the time I was only a couple years off riding a Honda RS250. So
Wow.
I've ridden 125s and 250s, and then I'd ridden Josh's super bike, and I remember that GP bike felt more similar to my 250 than it did to a super bike. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They're so different. Like they're so different. And obviously you have some riders that like make that transition and they kill it. And then you have other ones that make the transition and they're like, what the F just happened to me? Like, where am I? And then you like doubly like compound this thing because you have these teams and they've had like in Mark Marquez's like situation, like that Honda, like he's helped develop it, like he's steered that ship and it works for him really well, and anyone else that's gotten on it has freaking struggled, right? Yeah, so it's like, I mean, even I've seen this happen like in superbikes. Like when Josh was on the older style R1, like that was his baby and he really steered the direction of development on it. And when other riders got on it, they were like, "What the F is this? Like it doesn't work for me, you know?" So like for sure I think that's got to be the hardest part of like being that second rider on a team like at Honda or at Yamaha. You're that second rider and you're like, well, shit, I don't ride like that, dude. This thing's not working. And then you've got the team looking at you like, well, it works for him, so figure it out.
Yes. May I say, Melissa, I agree with you. And I did hear someone whom I respect, who knows oodles more about motorcycle racing than I do, on a podcast that I really like, say about Toprak earlier in the season. It was maybe halfway through the season. Oh, he'd be fast right away. And I was like, whoa, man, put the brakes on.
Maybe.
We don't know that. We don't know that.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I agree with Lynn Jarvis from the standpoint that the aggressive nature, the way that he attacks a track, diverges a bit from Morbidelli. I don't think that he carries the same conservatism the way that he approaches it. And that might, if nothing else, it's a sink or swim proposition. I'm not saying that he would have been better, but if I had the choice between the two of them, I would have picked Toprak and given him a shot on that factory motorcycle rather than see him here where he's being, and Kayla got into this on the last show, that basically he's on a 15,000 euro production bike racing against a 42,000 euro production bike.
I get
Bautista.
that. Yeah, I understand that too.
Yeah.
It would be fun to see.
It would be. Just the way that he approaches things. I've heard people say that he's a seminal rider. You guys would know better than I do. I don't know what I'm looking at. The stoppies, I don't know what I'm looking at. You guys do, but
I really like his riding style.
Yeah,
I think his riding style is a
confident.
lot similar to mine. Just like, I feel like I'll just say I really like the way he's able to work with it. I think that the way our strengths are pretty similar in some ways. Obviously, he's on a super bike, so it's going to be a lot different. But just the way I feel like I ride my bike is, you can kind of compare it to the way it looks, at least to Toprak in my opinion. And I think that the way he's actually had to ride that bike, because of how quick the Ducati was this year and how well of a rounded bike it was, compared to some of what Yamaha was trying to offer to him. I think he did a really, really good job, and the Yamaha team was able to really try to put in the work there and get it right for him in the end. And just overall, I think he's like obviously my number one in World Superbike, and I think one of the most talented riders in the world.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, and Kayla, after that last episode, Kayla sent me into work to defend her position on the Ducati needing to be tamed down. And I'm like, guys, like, don't shoot the messenger, man. She's the pro. I'm not. I'm just.
She's
like,
right.
It's
though.
not fair, man. I'm like, dude,
it's...
okay, she's been behind the scenes. You haven't. Anyway, so with MotoAmerica, if you guys could hit up a quick top 10 on then, we'll hit a couple rapid fire and we'll get you guys out of here.
Are we okay for the MotoAmerica? This is like across all classes, right?
All classes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just checking. You want to go first?
Okay. Okay. We're gonna say this right now. We love every single MotoAmerica rider.
Are you scared of hurting someone's feelings?
I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I'm just not. I'm not a feelings hurter.
Everybody's put it on the line that's gotten out there.
All right.
They have my respect.
All right, you're going first this time. I'm not
going
doing
first.
This.
Oh my God. My headphones were just like, your battery is low. Please charge now. This is fine. Okay. Let's hope they make it. Okay. Number 10, Corey Alexander. I don't know. I'm a fan of the guy. We raced against him when I worked with Cam Peterson, and I think he's like really worked at his craft, and it's cool to see it like coming along. Um, okay, number 9, I put Petrucci on my notes as whatever. I have to mention him, but he bums me out.
Dude, he was second in the championship. All right, go ahead.
I don't care, dude. He's so whiny. I just can't handle it. And it was so disappointing because I was such a fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, he's a fantastic writer. Like, just whatever. Anyway. Number 8, Kevin Olmedo, who unfortunately didn't finish the season this year. He got really sick. But the kid's got like so much heart, and I would like love to see him have a full season on a really good bike because in some ways he reminds me like of Kayla. Like he's so tough. Like I remember when he was at Altus, he had a big crash. He was like, "Oh yeah, like my back kind of hurts, but I'm fine." And he like grit his teeth and went through it. And I think afterwards someone found him like in the truck where he thought no one was, like pretty much stuck in the fetal position. Like he couldn't move because he'd broken a bunch of ribs. Like the
Wow.
dude, he's gnarly, and I'm just a huge fan of his. Um, Number 7, this is like a kind of my wild card, and that's Danilo Lewis. He races in Stock
Yeah.
1000.
Brazilian.
Yeah, and I would his crew cooks fantastic
Yes.
Brazilian food.
Yes.
They have fed me many times. Great group of guys, and
Amazing.
right, it's so good. But I would love to see what Danilo would do on a really good bike because I know it's like it's kind of like a small effort, and they just kind of like make do, and it's a struggle to get from round to round sometimes. But
He won Superbike Cup this year, right?
no, did he? Yeah, he did. You're right.
Yeah.
He did. And at one point he just like had to jump on a borrowed Yamaha and like kick butt on it. So yeah, I'd love to see him like, on a like more sorted out motorcycle. Number 6, Blake Davis, who won the Twins Cup this year. He's just a great kid, and he's really steady, and he's obviously talented, and he's a thinker. Like it's cool to watch him. Like he works with my husband a little bit, and yeah, just a big fan. Nice guy. Number 5 is actually Josh Herron. I just, as a super sport specialist, I think he's amazing. Yeah, I think he's a great rider. Like I've been watching him ride since he was like 13 or 14, and he's so talented. This is so bad what I'm gonna say right now. I put my husband number 4. He should have been higher up. He should have been higher up, but he doesn't race like the whole season, so it's like, and then I felt like if I put him number 1, it'd be like, whatever. So anyway, dude,
He's a beast, man.
dude, he's the GOAT. Whatever. We all know that. Number 3 is Kayla. I got Kayla in my number 3 spot. And I expect her to be in the number 1 spot before the season's over. No, like Kayla really impressed me this year. Like I think the number 1 thing is just like your racing IQ. It's huge. Like I watch you get creative and make some really smart moves racing, and a lot of that is stuff you can't teach. You either have it or you don't, and it was really cool to watch. My number 2 pick is Cam Peterson. I had the privilege of working with him in 2020. We won a Stock 1000 championship together. And again, like he's like a journeyman. Like at one point he had quit racing because he was just like, this isn't working. And then he was on like a teeny tiny team, and then he was on Altus, and then he was at M4, and holy cow, he's like a factory Yamaha rider now. And
great hair.
Yeah,
well.
fantastic hair.
Yep.
My son loves him. So that's huge. And
seems so cool, yeah.
Yeah, he's just, you know what? He's just he's a really talented rider, and it's cool to see his development over the last couple years, and like his thought process has really like evolved from when he was younger, and I just think he's a good guy to watch. And then of course I had to put Gagne at the top, man. He's like untouchable right now. Like no one's got anything for him. And I'm kind of excited to see like Cam Bovier coming back, because I just like I kind of want to see what Jake does under pressure, like see if he can like level up even more.
Can Cameron pressure him?
Oh yeah. I mean, if Cameron's on a good bike, for sure he can. I mean, Cameron's a phenomenal rider.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jake
in my
is.
opinion.
Yeah, he's amazing. Um, yeah, I got a couple of greatest hits, but I'm gonna let the boss go.
Is that me this time? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's you. You're the
Okay.
the
boss.
other.
All
Yeah,
right.
she's your
All
boss.
right.
You're my boss. There's a little
Okay.
rank
All right.
structure here.
Um, I'd probably go for number 10. Probably Cody Wyman. I'd say I think he has great race IQ. I got the pleasure of working with him a few times this year. Throughout the season, helped me a lot in a lot of instances, and not to mention he took me out of an air fence, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think that just great race IQ, one of the smartest guys on the grid, and no matter what anyone says about him being in the class this year, he I think elevated the class, and that's what really matters. I'd say for my number 9, I'd go Corey Alexander as well. I think I really enjoy watching him ride a motorcycle. I think he's really dedicated to things. He knows how to have fun with it, and I think I love the way he rides, and it's cool to see him win Stock 1000 this year, and it'll be cool to see what he can do in Superbike. For number 8, I'd probably have to go Richie Escalante.
Oh yeah.
I'm a big Richie Escalante fan. I love the dude. The dude's awesome. I think he's one of the guys that I really hope can do well this next season. I know M4 has a good package that they're hoping to get really close. So hopefully he can do well this year. And like I said, I think the dude is super talented and can go really far with it. For number 7, I'd probably go Josh Herron. I've worked with Josh quite a bit. When I was little, I used to go to Herron Compound a lot, and it was cool to see him back in the super sport class, doing well there. And just overall, he's a great rider. He's always been a nice guy to me. Good character around the pits, and this overall really good guy. He was there for me in Atlanta, and he was there for me at Ridge, and it's a really good dynamic, and I think it was really cool to have us, uh, both in the pits doing well this year, and it was cool to see that. For number, what am I at now? 6. This is where
Yes.
I'm at. I think so. I'd probably have to go Petrucci. Obviously I knew him from MotoGP. I had heard things about him. When I started really watching MotoGP, he started coming up and doing well. And then obviously when I started racing on the bigger bikes, he was winning MotoGP races. And it was really cool to see him finally transfer to a paddock that I knew. And just getting to talk to him this year was really nice. I think with the Ducati and the challenges they had this year, I think he did really well with it. Getting used to the tracks was a big thing. Obviously you go from Grand Prix tracks to, some tracks that may not be at the same level. It's a lot different and on different tires on a completely different bike. And just like we said, the transition from a GP bike to a super bike, it's going to be just as hard. So, that, and on top of that, his mom is really great. I love his mom, and she was really cool. I got to meet her at Pittsburgh, so I'm a little bit biased about that. For my number 5, I have to see here. I'd probably go. I'm trying to think. There's a couple that I haven't. I know what my top 3 are, but 4 and 5 here are a little bit tough. I think I really like the way Hayden Schultz rides. I probably put him in that top 5. I think that he's not only a great dude, but I think he rides a motorcycle very well and makes little mistakes. I think throughout the season we only saw really one at Laguna, and besides that, he's just really good guy, nice guy to talk to, great rider. I'd probably put him in my top 5. I'd have to give 4 to it's a little bit biased, but I have to give 4 to Rocco. I'm just biased, and he made that R6 work, and that's something that's really cool. If you're making R6 work, it goes well. I'm gonna add another one here because I didn't write a list out. So we're gonna go probably Matthew Skoltz for a
Woo!
number
Timely.
3
Look
slash
at the
4.
screen. Yeah.
There you
What's
go.
up, Roll
Yeah.
Josh?
We're gonna go Matt Skoltz because that dude rides that bike to the absolute limit, and
does.
I really like his riding style. Another like I say it for every one of them, but they're all really nice people, and it's really cool to be in a paddock with people that are really nice and are like really personable and passionate about what they do.
Yeah.
I'd put Josh Hayes as a number 3.
Yeah.
That's not only bias. I'm above you now, so he could be happier about me. No, but you know, he really made that R6 work, and with the races that he did, he was at the top of his game. So it's cool to see a guy who's, you know, kind of stepping out of retirement to come into a super sport championship and throw people
Old
off.
guys.
It was really cool, and it was cool to kind of show the young kids, put them in their place. So that was a cool thing to see. I'd put Peterson as my number 2, as well. Just I really admire the way he rides. His hair is amazing. I will say that. We can share that one. And just I like his riding style a lot. I think that he's very passionate about what he does. He first year being on a factory team, he did very well, and he was able to adapt to that bike very well, coming off of a Suzuki. So it was really cool to see that. And then obviously Gagne at my number 1. Just he is untouchable, and when he's at the top of his game, which he usually is, he makes very few mistakes. I think this was the first year that I've seen him make a few mistakes, but when he is at the top of his game, no one is able to touch him. And what he's able to do on that bike is just amazing. And like Petrucci has said, there's just no one at the moment who can do as well as Gagne on that bike. So it's cool.
One love. Thank you, boss. That was a great run up. I want to throw out a couple of my greatest hits there as well, even though I'm not an expert, and you guys are, as a matter of fact. I also want to talk about the guy on the Squid Hunter R6. There was one race where I watched him ride away from everybody, and they had like no chance of catching him. Forgive me if I don't remember what track that was, and just the schooling he gave. Rocco credits him with some certain aspects of his development in that bike. And I also want to highlight Rocco because even though we all know that the R6 is extremely developed for the American tracks as a machine in terms of handling and cornering, they're at a horsepower deficit, a significant horsepower deficit against a Ducati 955. So the fact that those guys were, and Rocco also ran away from some riders, was pretty amazing. So I was very inspired by the performances of both those gentlemen in Super Sport. And I'm not saying that because his wife is on the show right now. I'd say that if she wasn't on the show. Also want to credit Tyler O'Hara in the Bagger Series because you're being surrounded by some amazing Harley factory-sponsored baggers, and it's clear that Harley dumped a lot of money into that series and took it very, very seriously. And, ma'am?
I said that's an understatement.
Yes, right? And Tyler was able to walk away with a championship on that Indian Challenger, and I thought, now, maybe I'm biased because I just bought an Indian FTR 1200R carbon, but that's beside the point. So anyway, no, I really do. I really do feel that way. I've owned Harleys, and my first bike ever was an Indian, and my bike now is an Indian, but I've owned a couple Harleys in between and a Buell. So my first track day was on a Buell. So anyway, so I'd like to highlight them. Also, Sculty, like you said, he tries to wring every ounce of everything he can get out of that bike. He's clearly in shape and ready to compete every week, as well as Cam Peterson. And when we talk about hair, we didn't mention hair with relative to Jake Gagne. And I think he could be offended by that, that he wants to be recognized for his hair, not only for his riding.
Fair. Fair.
Right? I think that's a fair point.
It's true.
As far as Petrucci is concerned, I'll say this. If we were to take, thank you, Joe H. Buells Do Rock, man. I bought a 2007 brand new when I was over in England. American spec, though. Had it shipped over and went out to Snetterton and had a track day and got my first experience ever on the track. So it was great. Anyway, the thing I would say about Petrucci is if we were to take Jake Gagne and put him in a national championship in another country, brand new, never seen the tracks, and he were to finish number 2, we'd be going, oh my God, this guy was absolutely amazing in this series. And so I think to put Petrucci way down the list is not really fair, because I've done MMA podcasts for 12 years before I ever got into UFOs and motorcycles, because I was an MMA fan, and I can't pick based on whether I like somebody or I don't. The bottom line is, did the guy perform? The guy came over here and kicked ass, and clearly and nearly it went down to the last race. And clearly he was not, regardless of him maybe running his mouth and being disrespectful towards MotoAmerica, which clearly he was. Maybe he didn't approach it the way that he should have. But clearly he was not very confident to me, and you guys are on the inside. He didn't look like he was confident in that crew to set the bike up for him to ride. Whether that's true or not, I have no idea, but that's what I saw.
I think he tried to put full confidence in the bike. I think it's just they're still working out the kinks of that bike, and that's what you run into.
That bike
It was better than Boz. It was better than what Boz had. That they developed it, right? Would you say that?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say it's a lot better than what Baz had, but Baz did a great job of trying to develop the thing, but
yeah,
they still ran into many issues this year, and I hope that next season, which for whatever rider they're going to have on their Superbike team, it's a lot better. And I think that's I love the guys at Ducati there. They're really good people, but it's just they have to kind of fix these mistakes and make sure that it doesn't happen in these race weekends. And that's the biggest thing. You have these mechanical issues that are big issues that are happening during the weekends, and especially on tracks like Ridge, where you're having engine braking problems that are like really messing up with the rider. It's stuff like that can really ruin a championship. So I hope that they can fix that.
With analysis like that, I got to make another contribution to Kayla's 401k plan. I mean, it's just amazing. All right. So, guys, we're going to do it. So, by the way, Royal Josh said Patricia Fernandez on the stock FTR at Laguna finished 5th, homie. How you like me now?
Yeah. So dude, Patricia killed it in the baggers and the hooligan stuff this year as well.
God, to whip that bike around a 600-pound motorcycle?
I got to be honest, I didn't even can think of those classes when I was thinking of my top 10. I'm the worst.
It's okay. You did. You know what?
Yeah, I'm such a traditionalist.
Yeah, we're so honored that you're on. Don't listen to the episode of Carruthers and Bice where Richard Stamboli talks about Harley in the Bagger series, because
I'll probably love it. No,
he didn't like it, right? He didn't like the Bagger.
No, he probably eviscerated them.
You and I spoke on this. He eviscerated them. He said that they're leaking oil over the track, which you and I discussed.
I will agree with that though, because there were some times this year that with Junior Cup, we're obviously on the TV schedule, but we're not the priority. Obviously, the priorities are really Baggers and Superbike and Supersport, and then us. That's really what it is. So we had some instances during the year where there would be a problem in the Bagger race where someone's leaking oil, and they have to go out and clean it, and our race would be put to the very, very end of the day when, especially on days where, like at Brainerd, where it was about to rain. So we're sitting on pit wall with sets of rain tires, all of our things that we need to change for suspension, all of our things that we have for dry. It was just a mess. And then, you have places like MotoAmerica where they leak all over the track in the rain.
Oh, that was a disaster.
And
yeah,
that's I will say that's the main reason why I high sided right before my freaking race. That was pretty bad. We had 30 minutes to get that bike back together before I had to go back out and race. But it's stuff like that. And then I won't even go into the whole Junior Cup being pushed back because there were a few times this year that became very frustrating. But stuff like that.
Our next guest on Full Throttle Moto, Richard Stamboli. All right, so Tim, I agree with you, Tim. Got to give credit to Squid Hunter and Landers Racing for putting on awesome underpowered bikes together to go up against big money team with the guys in the red pants. I agree with you, brother. We're going to do, if you have any comment on that, we're going to do some quick rapid fire and get you ladies out of here, okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right, this has been.
She has something to say.
I did have something to say.
Please.
I'm so tired. Like, it's not underpowered, man. They just spent a whole lot of money to get them on par. For sure, they struggle a little bit, like in some of the, like just being able to race with them because maybe they don't have as much torque. But I'm sorry, my husband is not in the race shape that he once was. And I watched him stay with those guys around the banking at Daytona. Like, dude,
yes.
Don't, like, you can't, like, the Yamahas, like, it's fine. Like, it's a lot, in my opinion, no. Like,
okay,
you have to do a lot more work to get there. Rocco is putting a new engine in, I think, every other race weekend. Whereas I believe the Ducati went the entire season on one. So, for sure, Is it more work? Does it cost more money in the long run? Yeah, probably. But I still think it's a sharp enough knife to get the job done.
I totally agree with that. Like, I totally 100% agree with that. I think the only thing that the Ducati has is not to say they put less money in it, but they made the class more expensive.
Yeah. For the Yamahas, for sure. Yeah, agree.
That was about it.
So I want to thank you, ladies, because for fans out there like myself and people watching, we don't know this. We just see a Yamaha R6 and we don't know that. But the insight that you guys have is literally invaluable for somebody that wants to know about the sport, like myself and these other fans who are paying attention. So thank you for that. And let's hit a couple of quick rapid fires that'll go to each of you, and then we'll get you out of here. So Melissa and Kayla, who will be riding the Warhorse Ducati SBK next year?
Probably Heron. Yeah.
He will. Okay. And the Super Sport bike, the V-twin, or no?
I saw this dude. Yep, exactly.
Josh Heron. Okay. My friends are going to be really interested to hear that because they've been waiting to hear this. Who will be first to win a race next year? Will it be Alex on the Ducati or Mark on the Honda?
It's Mark on the Honda. As much as I want it to be Alex on the Ducati.
No. Don't say that, dude. No.
Look, if it was
Mark, this is an easy question.
If Qatar was the first race of the year, though, I would say Alex on the Ducati because Qatar is so weird. You never know what will happen.
I
would still say Mark though. Either way, even with Ducati being fast there because we saw how Mir got blown by last season. I think that Mark is just he loves that track and he does well there every single year. So I would say Mark.
I think Mark.
Okay, for the fun of it, I'm going to bet Melissa and Kayla a street taco at Barber. Okay?
Fair.
Okay. All right. Let's let's move right along. These girls are probably right. They know 10 times what I'll ever know about the sport. Okay, my friends. Who will be the first to win 2 races on a factory Ducati? Will it be Bastianini or will it be Pecco Bagnaia?
Bastianini.
Wow, I
Agree.
agree with you guys. There will be no
Yeah.
street tacos bet on this one.
Yeah.
And what will be the reaction of Pecco if Bastianini wins that first race in that in those red leathers?
It's gonna be a big sad.
It's not going to be good.
Yeah, big
It's
sad
going to
moment. I think
be.
it's always hard, especially if you're at the top of your game, to have a teammate come in. We
Ugh.
obviously don't know how Bastianini will be, so I'm not going to make any assumptions. But if he does come in and do as well as a lot of people are thinking, as well as myself, it's going to be tough for Pecco to be like, okay, my teammate is now doing better than me. Now I have to figure
Yeah.
something else out. So
Especially as like a defending champion, I think that like there's like a whole thing there too. I feel like um I feel like I've seen it a lot. Like someone will win a championship and then like the next year, like to win it a second time is almost harder. Because you almost like
Yeah.
forgot how hard you had to work the first time.
Target.
Yeah.
Target. The only thing he has going for him, though, Melissa, is he had 7 other bikes on the grid that are
Yeah.
running interference for him. So, I do agree with Kayla's, though. She posited a theory last time that not Bastianini, that Pecco Bagnaia's sister might make a lot of pasta and try to feed Bastianini and get him overweight to try to get the edge in her brother's
If
favor.
I was
That could happen.
Bastianini, that would work on me 1,000%.
I agree with that one.
All
Yeah.
right, so Pecco's sister going to get in the mix here. Guys, what do you think of Alex Rin's decision to go LCR Honda over Gresini Ducati, opening that door for Marquez?
That's a big sad moment for me because I don't know how. I don't see. I think Honda honestly is the closest thing to a Suzuki that you'll get, but LCR Honda isn't necessarily the best team on the grid. Just from what I see, I
Hmm.
don't feel like that team is capable of doing what I want Alex Rins to do, and I know what Alex Rins can do, and that's the only thing. I'm worried that he's gonna go down this path, and it might not be the best decision, and we may not see Alex Rins where he once was.
Melissa?
I just think there's so many factors at play that it's so hard to know like why that decision was made. Like, like I like when these guys are like negotiating these deals, there's so much weird shit that goes into it about like what equipment they're gonna get and like what team members they're gonna have and like what's like okay, like they're doing the math of when other people's rides are gonna end up and all this different stuff. So I think when you put all those things into play, it's just it's too hard to know why that decision was made to know like long term like what it's going to mean, I guess. But it is scary. I do agree because like obviously we can see that the Gresini Ducati is good for sure. So I don't know, but I just think there must be so much that we don't know.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of insight there, so I won't try to pretend I know because the fan in me says that you need to go with a bike. I mean, they've created a motorcycle that 8 different guys on the grid can be very successful and get into the top 4 or 5 position. And yeah, any of the other manufacturers aren't even close to that. So,
Hmm.
and I think from Kayla's perspective, she's thinking, well, they spent a lot of money to make that happen, and they've created a bit of a spending war.
Yeah.
Okay, last question, my friends. I'm gonna leave the one I had out, the other one because I have a feeling I know what my second to last question or my penultimate question would have been. But what I'd say, if you could choose one rider with whom you're unacquainted to have coffee with or an interview about and learn about that person, both MotoAmerica and MotoGP, who would that person be that you guys would want to have coffee with, interview, learn about?
Such a good question.
So for me, I mean, for me, it had always been Nikki Hayden, and obviously, you know, that may not be possible now, but growing up, that was always my number one, and it still is my favorite MotoGP rider.
How about
And I
now?
think that goes along with like representation too, because not only for like females, but for Americans, it was kind of cool to see that and to see, obviously his championship was before I was born, but I grew up watching races and I grew up watching old races from MotoGP, and it was just something I always saw, and to see him go through AMA and then get into MotoGP was a really cool thing, and I think that's something that I always have looked at, and I think what he was able to do was really cool. So for me, it would probably be, if I was able to do that, I would do that.
I am 100% with you. I mean, you guys would probably be. I mean, I didn't start riding until I was in my 30s. My sport bikes. I was riding shoestring budget bikes until I got my first CBR, and my first favorite rider was Nicky Hayden, and people just couldn't. Were probably sick of hearing me talk about Nicky Hayden. When I was in the Air Force, and people would kind of ask me like how I'd identify myself. I wasn't thinking I'm an Air Force guy. I think I'm a motorcycle rider, and it's because of Nicky Hayden. That notwithstanding, Kayla, who would it be today in Moto? One person from MotoAmerica, one person in MotoGP. Someone with whom you're unacquainted.
Do I get both or do I get one?
You're gonna get both.
Oh, okay. It's just like the thing for like MotoAmerica. I know all
You know
of
them all.
I know
someone
them all.
you're least
But
acquainted
if I got
with.
to know someone, if I got to know someone better, man, I'm trying to think.
You're gonna go to Starbucks with, and you're gonna sit
Well, I
down
already
and
did
you're
that
gonna
with
ask
Melissa.
them.
That's
We
true.
already got Melissa's Starbucks run.
We did.
But,
Yeah, but I'm not a superbike rider, so you got to pick a different one.
No, someone in MotoGP, yeah, and someone in MotoAmerica. Anybody.
Man, that was a hard one.
You
I'm
can
trying to
go,
think here.
Melissa.
All right, I'll go first. Okay,
Ruminate.
so
Okay.
MotoAmerica is super hard because, like, obviously, I feel like I know every single one of those guys. But knowing that, I'd pick Max Flinders because he'd just be a fucking great time. Pardon my language.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a great dude, and we'd have fun. Guarantee it.
Awesome.
MotoGP, you're not gonna accept my first answer, but I'm gonna try it anyways. But I would say for GP, I don't want to meet any of them because
Wow.
it's like looking in the kitchen of your favorite restaurant. Like as a fan, you can like build these guys up to be someone really cool, and I don't want to be bummed out when I meet them and they're like not rad. I had that happen with a couple. There was one writer in particular I was a huge fan of, and I had all these opportunities to meet him, and I like literally purposely avoided it because people told me he was a jerk, and I just like didn't want to be disappointed because I was a
That's
fan.
fair.
So I would like avoid it, and then I literally showed up to ride Supermode at my local kart track, and he happened to be there. And goddamn, everybody was right. And it was so disappointing.
Now you have to text me later because I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, it's a
That's
wild story that is not safe for work, but I'll definitely tell you about it
No
later.
no problem. And yeah, and also there's a different component with your girl and they're a guy, and there could,
Well, it's not just like it's
yeah.
not that. It's just like you meet someone and they're like, they act
Yeah.
like they're too cool for school or like
Right.
whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have the person that won't just like take a minute and talk to you because they feel like you're an insignificant human or like whatever it might be. And obviously it's not always like that. Like, I've met a couple GP guys and they've been amazing, like super cool. But when I think about like, oh, like would I want to sit down with like Morbidelli or maybe
Jack?
like I've met him before. He's A
Yeah.
plus, like great
Awesome.
guy. Yeah. Cal Crutchlow used to spend his winters here and we used to ride bikes with him all the time. Like he's a great dude. He's a jackass, but he's like a jackass in the best way. So it's like, like I have met some of these guys and they have been cool, but I've met a couple who are like not so cool. So like I think for sure, and like Kayla could probably agree with this, like at like there's that like realization when you're like, oh yeah, they're like just people. Like they're real people that are really good at riding motorcycles, but for the most part they're all human. They all put their pants on one leg at a time, and I try not to like put another human on a pedestal like that.
Yeah, I don't like being big timed. To me,
Yeah.
a friend of mine is the most important person in the world, and nobody takes precedence over somebody that's a friend.
Yeah.
And, that did come into play a little bit at the UFO conference, but I value friends above all. But Kayla, do you have anybody that you'd like to highlight that you'd like to know more about in GP or and in Moto America?
Yeah, I mean, I will agree first of all with Melissa saying like it's kind of like never meet your heroes. It's
Sure.
just like you for me I've had pretty decent experiences. There's only a few times when I've been like, okay, I kind of expected this, but I didn't really want to believe it, but whatever. But mostly for me it's been pretty positive, but it's just when you meet someone that you've looked up to for so long and then they end up being really not nice. It's just like, okay. But yeah, like for MotoAmerica, I don't know. Man, I'll go MotoGP first because I'm still thinking. Um I'd probably like I said, I think Alex Rins is really cool, but I'm trying to think of someone who I haven't really talked to. Um, I'd probably say either Morbidelli or Pecco because they both seem like really, really nice people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like down to earth people. So probably one of them. Also like Miller, I haven't really talked to him. I'd probably want to talk to Miller. He seems like a really cool guy. So those are probably my top three because like I said, I'm indecisive. Now when we go to Moto America, I'd probably say, I mean, Max Flanders is really good, but you already said that. I'm trying to be unique. See, I don't feed off of what
Okay.
you were saying. I probably want to talk to Cam Peterson more. I feel like
Yeah.
he's just like a really cool dude, and like
It's a good one.
he just has like a really nice. I don't like the word vibe. I hate that word, but it
Energy.
suits that.
Yeah.
He's just seems like an all around good person.
And he's a really cute dog. So there's
That's
that.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. Very partial to pets. That's amazing. Thank you, man. You guys really. Had no idea we were going to do an hour and 47 minutes. This is the longest podcast I've done in. Well, actually, no. I recently did like a 3 hour roundtable, but with UFOs. But this was phenomenal. So let's do our full throttle moto goodbyes. So please, if you would please, Kayla, say farewell to your team owner and new friend.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Melissa. I know
Oh, of course.
it was kind of short notice at first, and then things had to get moving around. I had to finish my schoolwork, and it was a big thing. We had some testing going on, but I will say that before we go, we have some good things coming in the next few weeks. Finally
Yeah.
getting to test on a new bike
Yes.
and
Yes.
preparing for round one, which is
Heck
in
yeah.
less than 100 days. Can you believe that?
Stop.
I cannot believe it.
No, it gives me so much anxiety. If we could not
Okay.
talk about that, please.
Well, coming soon. I'll just
Yeah.
say round one's coming soon. I'll give you that. But
All right.
I just want to make sure everyone's super hyped about it because I am, and
Yeah,
I'm
no,
really
I am
excited to
too.
see what we're gonna do. And I have really, I'm doing the best I can to be ready for that, and I'm trying to, obviously I see them putting in the effort, so I'm super excited about the year to come. And yeah, so thank you, Melissa, for coming on. Thank you,
Oh,
DJ, for always having a good podcast, and thank you
No,
to everyone for tuning in.
yeah, it's your podcast. I'm just your co-host. Remember? Yeah, I'm. It's really an honor, Melissa, to have you on and get to speak with a professional racer. I think my wife could tell you. Like I've done hundreds of podcasts about different genres before, and I was so nervous before this podcast. I can't even tell you. I spent 3 hours last night working on it. Uh, when I
Oh my
came
gosh.
from New York, yeah. But it was an honor to speak with you, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you up at Barber or something at the track.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about motorcycles, right? Like stuff's
Oh,
fun.
totally.
I enjoy it, so it's cool. And like Kayla said, I think we're gonna have a really fun year ahead of us. So yeah, thanks to everyone who tuned in to watch or listen
Yeah,
or both.
definitely. Yeah, no, we did have some good viewers last night. We're broadcasting live on Twitter. We're broadcasting live on my Facebook page. If Kayla gives me entrant, we can broadcast on hers, and we're also broadcasting on YouTube Live. My
I hope people got to
friends,
see my excellent cheetah pants today,
yeah,
just in the background,
bring it, man.
because
Got some of
it's we have
my
the professional trying to represent the team on top. Then we got the pajama pants on the bottom.
Yeah,
Because
it's like a mullet. It's like business in
Yeah.
front, no party in the back.
party.
That's what I told my
Business
mom.
up
But I
front
was like,
party.
it doesn't really work for pants.
Melissa, you got to come back on and co-host with us, man. Because
I'd love to.
You're good at this, man. We need to have you on when we have our next guest. We'll have you on the sideline with us, and we'll put someone there and we'll interview somebody. Would you do
Sounds
that?
good. I'd love to.
we would love to have you. It's an honor. When I said I wanted to do a motorcycle podcast, I never dreamed that I would have I would get Kayla to do a show with me, and certainly not that we would have someone like a pioneer like yourself on. So for Melissa Paris, for Kayla Yakov, this is DJ San Marco saying peace out, one love, and we'll see you down the road. We're always wondering what's up around the bend.